Tonight, you didn't arrive here by accident. You're here because your mind is tired of fighting itself, because you've spent too many days carrying silence, responsibilities, and thoughts that feel heavy. And tonight, finally, you've allowed yourself to stop. Let's slow down, just for a moment. Let everything that worries you stay outside. You don't have to fix anything right now, just listen, breathe, and rest. The Stoics had nights like this too. They weren't made of stone. They doubted, they felt pain, they fell apart. And yet they learned how to find peace in the middle of the noise. Marcus Aurelius wrote so he wouldn't lose himself. Epictetus spoke to remember his inner freedom. Seneca searched for clarity in chaos. You can do the same tonight. Set the weight down and remember who you are beneath everything you've been holding. You don't need to try. You don't need to understand every word. Just let these words sit beside you like someone who simply says, breathe. You're safe for a moment, and as you listen, something small begins to move inside you. A quiet strength, almost forgotten. A part of you that still wants to trust yourself. Stay with me. And listen. Tell me, why is it so easy to doubt yourself? Why do you keep doing it over and over again? I'll tell you why. Because you've let your mind, yes, that same mind you allow to constantly beat you down, learn to stop trusting you. But listen closely. There's something inside you that hasn't given up. A force that's been silently holding on, waiting for you to wake it up. You're not broken. You've just forgotten who you are and what you're worth. But today, I'm going to help you remember. Maybe you think it's hard to value yourself when you don't believe in who you are. But I'm only asking one thing from you. Trust me, and stay with me until the end. The Stoic teachings in this video will show you how to restore your faith in yourself, the kind that comes from inner strength and staying true to your values. Because real confidence doesn't come from big achievements or external validation. It's born from self-respect and the way you stand firm in your actions. So, if you've been feeling lost, numb, or tired of pretending everything's fine, this video is for you. Believe me, today you'll stop begging for respect and start building the kind of self-confidence that makes the ground shake beneath your feet. But before we go on, tell me, how long have you been living your life apologizing, explaining yourself, and asking for permission for everything? If that hit home, let me know in the comments. When was the moment you stopped believing in yourself? What happened? And then write, today I choose to believe in myself again. Because every change begins with a decision. Now don't forget to subscribe and join those who are learning to rebuild themselves from the inside out. Now listen to this story and tell me if you see yourself in it. Not every fall is visible. Some happen quietly, inside a mind that has stopped believing in itself. Eleanor Roosevelt knew that well. From a young age, she was surrounded by shadows. Her mother used to call her the ugly duckling, and her father, whom she adored, died when she was only 10 years old. She grew up with a constant feeling of not being enough, trying to fit into a world that never seemed to have a place for her. As an adult, she became the wife of Franklin Roosevelt, then governor of New York. From the outside, everything looked perfect. An influential family, a comfortable life, a respected position. But inside, Eleanor still felt small. She kept her thoughts to herself, held back her personality, and lived trying to please everyone. Until one day, the truth became impossible to ignore. She discovered her husband had been unfaithful, and everything she had built came crashing down. For months she hid from the world. She stopped attending public events, stopped writing, stopped speaking. In her personal letters, she wrote that she felt empty, without purpose, without a voice. She had lost trust not only in him, but in herself. She kept asking how she had ended up there, how a seemingly perfect life could feel so hollow on the inside. But it was in that very darkness where her transformation began. Instead of continuing to run away, she chose to face the mirror. And she discovered something the Stoics had known for centuries. What destroys us is not the pain itself, but our resistance to it. As Marcus Aurelius said, If it hurts, it's because you're holding on to it. So Eleanor stopped holding on. She let go and started rebuilding herself from the inside. At first, it was just a small step, writing privately the things she didn't dare to say out loud. Then she started teaching, joining social causes, speaking to small groups. Every word trembled. Every speech forced her to confront her own fears. But with every attempt, her voice grew stronger. She learned that confidence isn't the absence of fear, it's the choice to act in spite of it. With time, the woman who once felt invisible became one of the most influential figures of the 20th century. She went on to represent her country at the United Nations and helped draft the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. But her greatest achievement wasn't political, it was personal. She regained the confidence she had lost, and with it, her inner freedom. Eleanor came to understand what the Stoics had repeated for generations. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond. And that response can bring back your belief in yourself. Because trusting yourself again isn't an act of pride, it's an act of self-love. She did it, and so can you. Because that same voice you once silenced is still alive inside you, waiting for one command: to rise. Now, let's begin. First teaching: remember the strength you already have. Sometimes life feels like a boxing ring where you've taken too many hits. Not because someone is attacking you, but because you've spent too much time fighting against yourself. You beat yourself up over mistakes, punish yourself for past decisions, and compare yourself to people who don't even live your reality. And without realizing it, every negative thought becomes a punch straight to the soul. Seneca used to say that the true battle of the wise man is not against others, but against his own weaknesses. And that's exactly what happens when you stop believing in yourself. You become your own enemy. The most surprising part is that the strength you think you've lost is still there, waiting for you. You don't need to build it from scratch, just remember it. Marcus Aurelius spoke of an inviolable place within the soul, a space no one can enter or take from you. That's where your confidence lives, untouched though buried in dust. Because losing confidence isn't a sign of weakness. It's just a disconnect between who you were and who you're now learning to become. Your strength is like a flame covered in ash. From the outside it looks extinguished, but all it takes is one breath to make it burn again. That ash is made of your failures, the criticism you swallowed in silence, the times you compared yourself to someone else. But beneath all of that, something is still burning, something time cannot put out. The problem is, we spend our lives staring at the ash instead of the fire. Think about all the times you got back up when everything was against you. Those moments when you thought, this is it, and still, one more day. You tried again. That wasn't luck. It was character. And that character doesn't just disappear, my friend. It only drifts off when you let fear or the opinions of others take control. That's why when you feel like you can't go on, ask yourself one simple question. What picked me up last time? It wasn't motivation. It wasn't optimism. It was your will. The one that, though wounded, never gave up completely. Confidence doesn't come back all at once. It's rebuilt through small decisions that seem insignificant, but they're not. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, even if no one sees it, your mind learns that it can trust you. And that's the true engine of change. Consistency. It's not about telling yourself, I can. It's about proving it with your actions. Epictetus used to teach that courage isn't born from what you think, but from what you do. And he was right. If today you take just one step, no matter how small, your mind knows you're still moving forward. And when you move, doubt loses its grip. Action is the best response to fear. That's why you don't need to wait until you feel ready to move forward. Start, and the confidence will follow. How you speak to yourself matters too. Many of your thoughts are just reflections of the tone you use with yourself. If you keep telling yourself you're worthless, your mind will believe you. But if you change the message, you change the direction. Don't say, I'm weak. Say, I'm tired, but I'm still here. That sentence turns judgment into resilience. And when that resilience is repeated, it becomes self-respect. Talk to yourself like someone who wants to see you believe again, not like an enemy trying to drag you down. Respect begins with your inner dialogue, and when you learn to treat yourself with understanding, you stop seeking outside what you're already capable of giving yourself. That's the foundation of the inner mastery the Stoics spoke of, ruling your emotions without letting them rule your destiny. Regaining confidence isn't some kind of magic trick. It's a process of clearing away. You're not learning something new. You're removing what doesn't belong. Layers of guilt, fear, and disappointment. Everything that made you doubt yourself. And beneath it all, the purest version of who you've always been remains untouched. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the strength of the soul is measured by how it stands firm in the face of the inevitable. He wasn't talking about being fearless, but about not letting fear make your choices. That's the core of true confidence, acting with integrity, even when doubt is screaming. So remember this, regaining your confidence isn't about starting over. It's about listening to yourself again, reconnecting with what already lives inside you. The strength you thought you lost never disappeared. It was just waiting for you to believe in it again. And once you do, you'll understand that nothing and no one can give you what you already have. The power to rise again and again, even when the world stops believing in you. Because real confidence isn't found out there, it's awakened within. And that awakening starts today, with you. Second teaching, being present is your superpower. They say Marcus Aurelius found more peace watching the flame of a lamp than ruling an empire. On cold nights in the camp, when silence mixed with the wind and his soldiers were asleep, he would sit in front of a small flame and simply watch it in stillness. He wouldn't speak. He wouldn't plan strategies. He would just breathe, fully present in that moment. For him, that quiet was a form of training. He knew that if he couldn't govern his mind in silence, he wouldn't be able to govern it in chaos either. That image defines him more than any battle or decree. An emperor who, surrounded by uncertainty, chose serenity as his greatest victory. Because in the end, the only thing you can truly master is your attention. Everything else, opinions, results, fears, slips away. And when you learn to stay in the moment, to look at the flame without letting your mind chase the future, something very close to confidence begins to grow. A confidence that doesn't come from control, but from presence. Your mind, on the other hand, never stops moving. It travels to the past to remind you of your mistakes, and to the future to imagine worst-case scenarios. And caught between both, you get lost. You say you lack focus, that you're not motivated, but what you're really lacking is presence. Because being present isn't passive. It's an act of courage. It's choosing to face what you're living just as it is, without sugarcoating, without excuses, without running away from yourself. Think about it. How many times has your body been in one place while your mind was somewhere else? You work, but you're thinking about what could go wrong. You rest, but you're reliving things you can't change. And like that, there's no way to trust yourself, because every part of you is pulling in a different direction. Presence pulls you back together. It reminds you that you still have control over one thing, your attention. My friend, we live surrounded by distractions. You jump from one screen to the next, compare your life to others, check messages, think about what's missing, about what could go wrong. And every time you do, you give your power away to the noise. Epictetus used to warn that suffering doesn't come from things themselves, but from the opinions we form about them. A scattered mind exaggerates everything. It makes problems seem bigger, distorts reality, and weakens your confidence. But when you learn to stay here, everything becomes clearer. Being present isn't a technique, it's a form of respect. Respect for what you're living now, even if it's not perfect. Because when you mentally escape from the present, you're also escaping from yourself. And that's when confidence breaks. Not because you're incapable, but because you disconnect from the only thing you can control, your response. Start with the little things. When you eat, just eat. Not while checking your phone or staring at a screen. Just eat, knowing you're nourishing your body, not just filling a gap. When you talk to someone, truly listen. Don't prepare your answer while they're still speaking. Presence is also that, being fully there for what you're doing. And when your mind starts running toward a future full of threats, repeat what Marcus Aurelius wrote. When the time comes, you'll have the same tools of reason you have now. It's a phrase that cuts through the noise. It reminds you that fear always talks about tomorrow, but confidence only lives in the now. Being present also means forgiving yourself for not having been here before. Because once your mind realizes how much it's drifted, it tends to punish itself. But no, this isn't about guilt. It's about returning, again and again. Every time you come back, you strengthen the muscle of calm. Every time you choose to face what's in front of you without running away, you reconnect with your integrity. And that's where confidence is reborn, in coherence. The Stoics used to say that whoever masters their attention masters their life. And they weren't talking about rigid control, but about clear presence, knowing that you can't control what happens, but you can always choose how you live it. That choice, made day after day, is what gives you back power over yourself. Sometimes we think confidence is earned by doing big things, but it begins with the simplest: being where you are, breathing without rushing, acting without seeking approval, accepting what comes without drama. Every moment you choose that, you're training your mind to trust you again. Because there's no inner mastery without presence, no integrity without attention. Remember, being present isn't just about calming your mind, it's about reclaiming respect for yourself. And when you manage that, when you start noticing you can come back to the present moment again and again without running from who you are, you'll feel something different. The noise won't be what leads you anymore, it will be your calm. That calm born from inner mastery, the one that reminds you that confidence doesn't depend on what happens outside, but on the peace with which you choose to face it all. If there's one thing that can transform your day, it's this: learning to return to the present moment. So tell me in the comments, what do you do to remind yourself to be here now when your mind starts to race? And if you want to leave a phrase to carry with you from today on, write it like this: I choose to be present, because this is where I regain my strength. Third teaching: put your inner world in order. First, my friend, you can't bring order to the outside if you're at war on the inside. You can't trust yourself if your inner dialogue is a battlefield. A messy mind blows problems out of proportion, invents fears, and convinces you that everything is lost. But once you start clearing out what doesn't belong, everything shifts. The outside world stops feeling so threatening because you're no longer looking at it through chaos. That's exactly what Epictetus said, that no one can be free while they're still a slave to their own mind. And freedom doesn't mean having no problems. It means inner order. When you know what to hold on to and what to let go of, you regain control. You stop reacting and start deciding. And that sense of self-mastery, of being balanced, is the foundation of all real confidence. That's exactly what happened a few years ago to a neurosurgeon named James Doty. He went through one of the most chaotic periods of his life. He had success, money, and prestige, but inside, he was completely broken. Anxiety, guilt, exhaustion. He felt like he had lost control over everything, like his mind was a storm he couldn't stop. One day, in a hospital during a conversation with a Buddhist nun, she told him something he would never forget. Your environment doesn't need order. You do. That sentence broke him open. He had spent years trying to fix things on the outside, his job, his image, his relationships. But he had never looked inward. So he began, little by little, with no mystical rituals or grand promises. He simply sat in silence for a few minutes each day and observed his thoughts, like someone watching a storm from a window. He didn't judge them. He just let them pass. And in that process, he began to understand what Marcus Aurelius meant when he wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." As his mind became clearer, so did his life. Did that sound familiar to you? Then it's time to start rebuilding your confidence from the inside out. Write down what's weighing on you, even if you don't have a solution. Take it out of your head, put it on paper, and look at it from a distance. Learn to spot the thoughts that don't serve you, the ones that only repeat fear or guilt. And each time you clear out one of those useless thoughts, you'll feel a little lighter, as if organizing your mind was also opening a window in your soul. Putting your inner world in order isn't a quick task, but it's the most important one. Because when there's order inside, the noise outside stops ruling you. Everything becomes clearer, simpler. And that's when you begin to truly trust yourself. Not because everything is under control, but because you are. Once you reach that point, you'll realize it wasn't your life that was broken. It was just the way you were looking at it. The confidence you thought was gone had never left. It was just buried under the mental clutter. And all it took was calming your mind to see it clearly again. So remember this: when you bring order to your inner world, you bring order to your whole life. And when your mind becomes clear, doubt loses its grip, because confidence is born right there, in the space where calm and clarity meet once again. Fourth teaching: make discipline your reflection. There's a scene that's always stayed with me. Epictetus, who was born a slave, would get up every morning to train his mind the way others train their bodies. He had no wealth, no comfort, no control over the outside world. But he had something no one could ever take from him: mastery over himself. He lived with an injured leg, the result of his master's abuse, and yet he found peace in the one thing he could still govern: his will. He used to say no man is truly free unless he owns himself. Today, we'd call that discipline, but he called it freedom. And it's interesting because we all admire disciplined people, not because of what they do, but because of the confidence they radiate. They inspire us because they seem anchored, grounded by an inner strength that doesn't shake with fatigue or excuses. But the truth is, that strength doesn't come from talent or genetics. It comes from commitment. Discipline isn't some inherited trait, it's a mirror. It reflects what you choose to do every day when no one's watching. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, even a small one, your mind learns it can trust you. But each time you break your word, even if no one notices, something inside begins to crack. That's the root of self-confidence, the relationship you have with yourself. You can't feel secure if you constantly let yourself down. Discipline isn't punishment, it's integrity. It's proving to yourself that your word means more than your excuses. Speaker Mel Robbins, author of The 5-Second Rule, often says that most people wait to feel like it before they act, and that's why they fail. Because the feeling rarely comes. Waiting for motivation is like waiting for the wind to push your boat before you lift a single oar. The Stoics understood this more than 2,000 years ago. They didn't act out of impulse, they acted out of duty. Marcus Aurelius put it plainly in his personal writings: do what nature asks of you. Don't get distracted by the rest. In modern words, do what you said you'd do even when you don't feel like it. Discipline is like rowing against the current. At first it's hard, your body resists, your mind complains. But if you stop rowing, the river pulls you right back to old habits. That's why the Stoics trained their minds like their muscles, through repetition. They knew inner strength isn't built on the easy days, but on the hard ones. Confidence doesn't come from results. It comes from the process. Not from what you achieve, but from what you keep doing even when no one claps for it. Keep it simple. You don't need perfect plans. You just need real commitments. If you said you'd get up at 7, get up. If you said you'd read 1 page today, read it. It doesn't matter if it's small. What matters is that it's true. Every time you follow through, you lay another brick in the foundation of your confidence. And if one day you fall short, don't beat yourself up. Correct the course and keep going. Seneca said that the wise don't blame themselves, they adjust. That too is discipline, learning without tearing yourself apart. There's something else. Start replacing the word motivation with respect. Because discipline doesn't come from feeling like it. It comes from respecting yourself. Do things not because you feel like it, but because you said you would. And each time you do, the bond with yourself grows stronger. And when you follow through, you don't need others to believe in you, because you already do. Discipline also has a quiet side, the part no one sees. It's getting up after a fall without announcing it. It's doing the right thing even when no one's watching. It's moving forward when your mind is screaming at you to stop. That consistency, repeated day after day, begins to shape your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who's trying to change, and start seeing yourself as someone who follows through. And that's the difference between someone who doubts and someone who walks with certainty. Seneca wrote, "The greatest victory is to conquer yourself." That sentence sums up what the Stoics meant by true strength. It's not about withstanding everything. It's about mastering yourself enough not to betray your own values. When discipline becomes your reflection, you stop searching for confidence. You're already living it. You feel it in every aligned decision, in every promise you keep. Stop seeing discipline as rigidity. It's self-respect. It's caring enough about yourself not to let yourself slip into what's easy. It's the art of standing by your word even when your body says enough. And when discipline becomes part of who you are, you won't need to look for confidence anywhere else. You'll breathe it every time you keep your word. Because that's real freedom, owning your actions, your thoughts, and your path. And when you reach that place, no doubt will be strong enough to bring you down. Fifth teaching, gratitude gives you back control. Have you ever had one of those days when everything seems to go wrong? But if you stop for just a second, you realize you're not missing anything essential. You have a roof over your head, food on the table, someone who cares about you, and yet something inside still feels empty. It's like your mind always finds a new reason to complain, to remind you of what's missing. Marcus Aurelius spoke about this very thing when he said, "He who complains about everything, even what he has in abundance, is a prisoner of his own mind." Because complaining traps you, but gratitude sets you free. Gratitude isn't just a pretty phrase. It's a way to take back control when everything feels like it's slipping through your fingers. We live in a time where the mind is trained to measure everything, what you have, what you achieve, what you lack. And without realizing it, that habit drains your confidence. Because when all you see is what's missing, you begin to believe you are not enough either. The Stoics weren't grateful because their lives were perfect. They were grateful because they understood that power doesn't come from having more, but from recognizing what already is. Gratitude was how they found balance, how they returned to their center. When you're grateful, my friend, you come back home to yourself. What's curious is how gratitude has been misunderstood. These days, it's become a trend, floating around on social media quotes, self-help journals, and routines that promise instant happiness. But Seneca didn't see it that way. To him, gratitude was an act of clarity, a workout for the mind, just as a warrior trains his body. He said, "It's not the one who has everything who is happy, but the one who appreciates what they have." And he was right. Gratitude doesn't ask you to deny your problems. It asks you to open your eyes and see the small victories that come with them. It doesn't erase pain, but it keeps the pain from erasing everything else. Picture yourself in a completely dark room. You can't get out. You don't know where to go. Then suddenly, you switch on a flashlight. It doesn't eliminate the darkness, but it helps you find your way. That's how gratitude works. It doesn't make the hard stuff disappear. It gives you perspective. It reminds you that even if chaos is still there, you still get to choose how you face it. A mind without gratitude becomes a harsh judge. It evaluates everything, what you do, what you have, who you were, and always finds something wrong. But when you practice gratitude, you change the role. You stop judging, and you start witnessing. You're no longer there to condemn yourself, but to notice what's still alive, what's still holding you up. And that changes your entire relationship with yourself. You begin to trust again, not because everything is perfect, but because you're no longer drifting. If you ever feel like complaining is pulling you under, pause, breathe, look at what is working. Sometimes it's enough just to recognize that you're still here, that you've got another shot, that you still get to try. And if it's hard to see, write it down. List 3 things you're grateful for, even if they seem small. Writing it makes your mind register it as real. Avoid the trap of comparison too. Every time you compare your journey to someone else's, you rob yourself of the chance to see your own progress. Comparison is the fastest way to fall into ingratitude. No one walks the same path or carries the same weight. And every time you focus on what others have, you forget to value the ground you've already covered. Practice active gratitude. Don't just think it, express it. Say thank you to someone, even for something small. Sometimes saying it out loud shifts more than you'd expect. And if there's no one to say it to today, say it to yourself. Thank yourself for getting up, for continuing, for not giving up, even when you had every reason to. The Stoics knew gratitude wasn't just an emotional reaction. It was a way of thinking. Marcus Aurelius wrote each morning about the privilege of being alive, of breathing, of thinking. And he did it while facing war, betrayal, and sleepless nights. If he, surrounded by chaos, could still find reasons to give thanks, how could you not find some right here, right now? Because gratitude doesn't change what happens to you. It changes what you do with what happens to you. It gives you back your power. It centers you. It grounds you. It teaches you that confidence doesn't come from having everything under control, but from remembering that you're still standing, in spite of it all. And in that simple act of giving thanks, the mind quiets, anxiety fades, the emptiness softens, and your heart finds its rhythm again. 6th teaching. Move forward, even if fear walks beside you. There's an old story that tells of a young Stoic disciple who, one stormy night, ran to his master full of fear. Thunder shook the ground, the wind slammed the doors like it was trying to tear them down, and the young man cried out, "Master, I'm afraid." The elder looked at him, stood up slowly, and simply said, "Then walk." He didn't comfort him. He didn't explain anything. He just showed him the way. Keep going. That simple phrase, "then walk," holds one of life's greatest truths. Because courage, my friend, isn't the absence of fear. It's moving forward even when the ground is shaking under your feet. Fear doesn't go away because you understand it. It goes away when you face it. Epictetus said that fear is born from trying to control what doesn't depend on you. And he was right. Most of what scares you is just a projection. What others might think, whether things will go well, the fear of failing, of not being enough. But life isn't meant to be controlled. It's meant to be faced. Confidence doesn't grow when everything is under control. It grows when you accept that uncertainty is part of the journey, and you decide to move forward anyway. You don't need to get rid of fear to move. You need to move so fear starts to lose its grip. Picture your fear like a shadow. The more you run from it, the bigger it grows. But if you stop and take one step toward the light, the shadow shrinks behind you. That's how fear fades, not by running, but by walking toward what matters to you. When you choose to move forward, even with your hands shaking and your voice trembling, your mind learns that you are in control. And slowly, fear stops being a monster and starts becoming what it really is, a sign that you're on the right path. Think about it. How many opportunities have you let pass by while waiting to feel ready? We wait for the perfect moment, the clear sign, the guarantee that everything will work out. And while we wait, life keeps moving. Marcus Aurelius said it plainly. Do not let the future disturb you. You will meet it if you must, with the same reason that supports you today. In other words, you already have inside you what you need to face what's coming. All that's left is to choose. We often think confidence comes before the step, but it's the other way around. Confidence comes after. As a result, it's built with each action, with every small act of courage. The truth is, no one is immune to fear. We all feel it. The difference lies in what you do with it. Some people freeze and listen to it until they're paralyzed. Others let it walk beside them, but they don't let it take the lead. Those are the ones who grow. If you're afraid, don't deny it, name it. Saying "I'm afraid to fail" already takes away half its power, because fear kept quiet becomes massive, but fear that's spoken out loud becomes manageable. And once you name it, act. Take a step, even a small one. Send the message, share the idea. Make that move you've been putting off. Action turns fear into motion. Every time you act in spite of doubt, your brain learns it can trust you. And that, over time, is what rebuilds self-confidence. Don't wait for someone to push you. Courage is a personal decision. No one can make it for you. Sometimes you'll have company. Other times you'll be completely alone. But even in the solitude, you can choose to move. That's the difference between those who stay stuck and those who change their lives. Moving forward with fear is still moving forward. Fear can come with you, but it doesn't get to drive. And one more thing, don't mistake fear for weakness. Fear is a sign that you're in new territory, that you're growing. Seneca said that challenges strengthen the mind the same way work strengthens the body. There's no growth without effort. Every step outside your comfort zone hurts a little, yes, but it also expands you. Every time you act despite the fear, you're rewiring your mind to trust yourself again. When you choose to move, even while trembling, your mind understands. You're bigger than your doubts, stronger than your fears. Rebuilding confidence isn't about eliminating fear. It's about learning to walk with it beside you. And when you do that, you'll discover something powerful. It was never fear holding you back. It was you, not yet deciding to move. So tell me, what's that one step you've been avoiding for too long? Write it in the comments, even if it's just one sentence. And if you'd rather turn it into a promise to yourself, write, "Today I walk with fear, but I walk anyway." Because that's what it really means to believe in yourself again. Not waiting to feel ready, but moving forward even when your heart is racing, even when the ground shakes, even when the storm roars. Keep walking. Every step will be a silent promise to yourself, the promise to never again doubt your own strength. Seventh teaching, turn pain into wisdom. Do you think the Stoics didn't feel pain? They did, deeply, but they learned to relate to it differently. Marcus Aurelius lost several of his children, faced betrayal, illness, and war, and still he wrote, "What stands in the way becomes the way." That wasn't coldness, it was wisdom. He had understood that pain isn't overcome by running from it, but by walking beside it. Pain has a strange way of entering your life. It doesn't ask permission, it doesn't send warnings, and it never arrives the same way twice. Sometimes it roars. Sometimes it comes in silence, a silence heavier than noise. And no matter how hard you try to avoid it, it always finds you. Think of iron before it becomes a sword. It goes through fire, hammering, and repetition. Every strike seems violent, but it's not destruction, it's transformation. The same thing happens to you. Every time you go through loss, betrayal, or disappointment, you're not falling apart, you're being shaped. You're forging a steadier mind and a wiser heart. When pain is fully lived, it doesn't weaken you, it builds you. It teaches you to hold things that would have crushed you before, because pain doesn't just come to destroy, it comes to reveal. Most people try to heal by avoiding how they feel. They distract themselves, drown in noise, do anything to avoid looking at what hurts. But what you ignore doesn't disappear, it hides, and keeps acting from the shadows. The Stoics didn't seek out pain, but they didn't fear it either. They saw suffering as a tool, a test. Seneca said adversity is the fire where virtue is forged, and he was right. Pain isn't punishment. It's a process. It's training, the kind that teaches you to trust in your ability to endure, even when everything seems to fall apart. Imagine you've just lost something important, a job, a relationship, a long-awaited opportunity. Your mind fills with questions. Why me? What did I do wrong? But Stoicism invites you to change that question to something far more powerful. What is this for? That one word turns your wound into a teacher. It moves you from victim to student. It's not resignation, it's emotional intelligence at its finest. Epictetus said it's not what happens to you that harms you. It's how you interpret it. And that's the key. It's not about denying how you feel. It's about giving your pain a meaning that helps you move forward. You can see pain as your enemy, or as your training ground. You can use it as an excuse, or as fuel. It all depends on what you choose to do with it. When it hurts, don't rush to distract yourself. Sit with it for a moment. Breathe. Don't punish yourself for feeling. Sometimes the only way to heal is to stop running. Avoidance prolongs suffering. Acceptance softens it. Allow yourself to feel without turning it into a tragic story. Observe pain like you would a wave. It comes, it crashes, and it goes. If you don't resist, it leaves behind a piece of wisdom on the shore. Look for meaning inside the damage. Ask yourself what part of you was relying too much on what you just lost. Maybe you leaned so heavily on that person, that job, that idea, that you stopped trusting yourself. Sometimes pain doesn't destroy, it clears the way. It brings you back to yourself. It reminds you that your strength doesn't come from what you have, but from what you can rebuild when it's all gone. And when the time is right, share your story. Not as a complaint, but as a testimony. Talking about your pain doesn't make you weaker. It makes you human. And when you speak from a place of understanding, you help others heal too. Sometimes your scar becomes the map someone else needs to find their way out of the same darkness you once walked through. Pain, my friend, is one of the greatest teachers there is. It shows you, with brutal honesty, who you are when there's nothing left to protect you. It teaches you to let go of control, to accept the inevitable, and to believe again in your ability to rise. And when you do that, the fear of falling disappears, because now you know you can rebuild yourself. And that's where confidence is born again. Pain is inevitable, but suffering, that's a choice. You can't avoid the fire, but you can choose what you become inside it. You can come out bitter or wiser. You can stare at the ashes or learn to see the light rising from them. If you've lived through a moment like this and learned something meaningful from it, share it in the comments. Tell me what your pain taught you, or if you prefer, leave a phrase to seal your commitment to this path. I turn my pain into wisdom, because that, in the end, is the essence of growth, using every blow to forge the most lasting kind of confidence there is, the kind that comes from knowing you can fall and still rise. Eighth teaching, a clear mind, a clearer life. Picture a fish tank. If the water is murky, no matter how hard you look, you won't see anything. The problem isn't the fish or the rocks at the bottom, it's the water. That's how the mind works. When it's stirred up, everything feels out of place, even the things that are actually fine. Marcus Aurelius put it plainly. A man's life is what his thoughts make of it. When your thoughts are tangled, your life feels tangled too. Mental clutter isn't just fatigue. It's the result of letting in too much. Other people's opinions, unfinished conversations, worries that were never yours to carry. It's as if every thought barges into your head without permission and starts rearranging the furniture. Epictetus said that an undisciplined mind becomes a slave to any passing stimulus. And that's exactly what happens when you live without mental direction. You become a mirror of the noise around you. Clearing your mind isn't just a spiritual practice. It's emotional survival. Your mind is like a river. When it flows, it stays clean and clear. But if you start clogging it with branches, stones, and trash, it gets stuck. And when it gets stuck, it stops reflecting the light. Clearing your mind isn't about stopping the river. It's about removing what blocks it. It's letting it flow again, naturally. And when it flows, everything else flows with it. There are days when you wake up overwhelmed without knowing why. You can't focus, your body feels tense, and you don't even know where to begin. If you stop for a moment and look closely, You'll realize you're carrying thoughts that don't even belong to you. You're comparing yourself to others. You're worrying about things you can't control. You're still punishing yourself for past mistakes. And the worst part is, you're doing it without even realizing it. That constant mental noise drains your energy, your focus, and above all, your confidence. Because when everything is jumbled in your mind, even your strengths start to look small. The Stoics practiced something we'd now call discernment. It was their way of clearing the river. Every day, they separated what they could control from what they couldn't. It's a simple exercise, but a powerful one. When you do it, you make space. And where there's space, calm returns. You can try it right now. Ask yourself, does this depend on me? If the answer is no, let it go. Not out of apathy, but out of respect for your energy. Another way to bring clarity to your mind is through conscious pauses. Stop a couple of times a day and ask yourself, what am I actually thinking about? You might realize you've spent the last 30 minutes spiraling around something you can't fix. That moment of awareness breaks the cycle and restores clarity. And the more you practice it, the quicker you'll recognize the clutter before it takes over. It also helps to close small mental loops. Not everything unfinished needs a grand goodbye. Sometimes it's enough to accept that something is over, a conversation that won't be resolved, a decision you didn't make in time, a project that no longer fits. Every loose end takes up mental space, and that space sooner or later turns into noise. Closing something doesn't always mean losing. Often it means freeing yourself. And here's something no one usually tells you. Having a clear mind doesn't mean having an empty one. It means having a focused one. It means knowing where to place your attention. The Stoics weren't trying to shut down their thoughts. They were trying to guide them. Marcus Aurelius said confusion is a form of weakness, and he was right. A clear mind isn't cold, it's free. And only from that freedom can you begin to trust your own decisions again. My friend, regaining confidence isn't about motivation. It's about mental clarity. When your mind is full of noise, every step feels uncertain. But when you start sorting things out, when you separate what matters from what doesn't, your vision sharpens. And with that clarity, confidence returns on its own. Not as a sudden high, but as a quiet peace that reminds you, I know who I am. I know where I'm going. When you clean your mind, the world doesn't change. You do. You start seeing it differently. You realize things weren't so chaotic. You were just looking at them through clutter. And in that moment, everything aligns. Your mind becomes like a river again, clear, calm, flowing. So I invite you to do one thing before you go on with your day. Watch the next video that's on the screen. It'll help you take the next step, not just in clearing your mind, but in sorting through what you feel. It's a natural continuation of everything we just talked about. If this video made you think, that one will help you move forward. Click now and keep walking. Teaching number 9. Start each day with purpose. In Okinawa, a small island in the south of Japan, there's a little village called Ogimi. People call it the village of centenarians. Time there isn't measured by clocks, but by moments. No one rushes, no one competes, no one is desperate to get ahead. They rise early, tend to their gardens, share tea with neighbors, and repeat one word that captures it all: ikigai. It means reason for being. It's not a goal, it's a motive, something that gives meaning to each new day. When asked about the secret to their long and peaceful lives, they all give the same answer: we have a purpose. But they're not talking about huge dreams. They mean simple, steady things. Taking care of a garden, teaching the village children, cooking for others. And there lies the key. Purpose doesn't have to be grand. It has to be true. In that simple routine, they find the peace that so many of us are missing. That's exactly what Marcus Aurelius used to do. Picture it for a moment. The military camp is still asleep. The air is cold. Mist covers the ground. Marcus Aurelius wakes before his soldiers, in silence. He doesn't issue commands or seek applause. He sits, picks up his notebook and writes. Those notes, written only for himself, would later become meditations. In one of them, he wrote, "When you rise in the morning, remember what a privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to feel, to love." The most powerful man in the world, in the middle of war and weighty duties, needed to begin his day by remembering what matters. Even he knew that without purpose, strength fades, because the first hour of the day sets the tone for the rest. I'm not talking about strict routines or waking up at 5 a.m. I'm talking about intention, about not starting your day on autopilot. Marcus Aurelius saw every morning as a mental reset, a fresh chance to return to balance. Whatever happened yesterday no longer matters. Today, you get to choose how you will respond to the world. Think about it. How do you start your days? Do you wake up and immediately check your phone? Read news that unsettles you or messages that pull you in 10 directions before you've even gotten out of bed? If so, don't judge yourself, but recognize this. You're giving away your power too soon. You're letting the noise of the world decide who you'll be before you've had a chance to decide for yourself. And like that, without noticing, your day becomes a chain of reactions instead of conscious choices. Reclaiming control starts with something as simple as choosing how you begin your morning. Before you look at a screen, take a moment for you. Marcus Aurelius called it remembering virtue. It wasn't about planning or making to-do lists. It was about reflection. How do I want to act today? What kind of attitude do I want to bring into whatever comes? That short pause changed how he lived the day. And it can change yours too. Just do one thing that reconnects you with yourself. It could be a few mindful breaths, writing down a phrase that inspires you, or simply looking out the window as the sun rises. You don't need a perfect routine, just presence. It's a small gesture, but a powerful one because it reminds you. You set the tone for your day. Not traffic, not messages, not headlines. You. And if one day you mess up, if you wake up rushed or unmotivated, it's okay. Purpose isn't about doing it perfectly. It's about starting again. As Marcus Aurelius said, begin again. Each morning is a chance to reconnect with the confidence that sometimes gets lost in all the noise. When you choose to begin your day with purpose, you're telling yourself, I'm in charge. My friend, you can't control how your day will go, but you can choose how you greet it. And that's the difference between living in reaction and living in alignment. Purpose doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. It's in the small gestures, in the calm of a single breath, in the decision to act with intention. Each morning is an open door. You don't need the day to be easy, only to decide who you're going to be in it. And when you do that, when you start your day from that place of grounded clarity, everything begins to shift. Not because the world is different, but because you are. As Marcus Aurelius wrote while Rome slept, begin again, be just, be steady, be free. Now think about this. You've remembered your strength. You've learned how to be present, how to clear your mind, how to move with fear and turn pain into wisdom. All of that has brought you here. But there's something else, something that ties it all together. Because clarity, calm, and discipline mean nothing if you don't trust the process that's shaping you. That's the piece many forget. Inner patience, the quiet faith that what you're doing today, even if it's invisible now, is building something greater. So stay with me a little longer, because the final lesson is the one you need to stop doubting your path and start truly believing in who you're becoming. Teaching number 10, trust your process, not the rush. Picture a tree growing in silence. No one watches it. No one claps. Day after day, the sun scorches it. The rain soaks it. The wind bends it. And still, it remains, steady, unhurried. Because it never doubts what it's doing, growing. Marcus Aurelius once wrote something similar. What grows slowly puts down deep roots. And those roots, even if no one sees them, are what hold everything up. The same is true for you. Your process might not always be visible, but that doesn't mean it's not working. We live with this constant feeling of being behind on healing, behind on changing. behind on reaching that place where everything finally makes sense. But that rush, it's a trap. The Stoics understood it well. Life isn't measured by speed, but by direction. It doesn't matter if you move slowly, as long as you keep walking toward what builds you. Seneca once wrote, "Nothing is lost by waiting, if what you're waiting for is worth it." And he was right. Impatience is born from fear. Fear that you won't make it, that if you don't see results right now, you're failing. But real growth isn't instant. It simmers, quiet, invisible, sometimes even dull. And yet, that's where real confidence is born. In the choice to keep going, even when there are no signs of bloom. Think about it, my friend. How many times have you felt like your life is moving slower than everyone else's? Like you're not making enough progress, like something must be wrong because you're not there yet? But what if your process isn't delayed, just ripening? What if that pause you feel is the exact space where your roots are growing deeper? The modern world pushes us to run, but running without direction doesn't bring you closer to yourself. It pulls you further away. Sometimes things don't bloom because they're still gathering strength beneath the surface, just like the tree, which doesn't seem to grow, but does. And when the time is right, it all unfolds. Calm isn't resignation, it's wisdom. It's the understanding that confidence doesn't come from how fast you change, but from how steadily you choose not to give up. Start honoring your invisible progress, the quiet decisions, the peaceful days, the arguments you don't have, the moments you hold your ground when before you would have exploded. That's growth, even if no one sees it, even if you doubt it. Every one of those choices gives your power back, because they come from self-mastery and alignment. And when you live from that place, you slowly begin to trust who you are becoming. Stop measuring your progress by quick results. Measure it by coherence. If today you act more in line with your values, you're progressing. If today you do something hard without being asked, you're building character. If today you don't abandon yourself, even when the day feels gray, you're growing. That's what real progress looks like. And don't punish yourself for the setbacks. No one grows in a straight line. Even the wise, Epictetus said, fall back into old mistakes. What matters isn't avoiding the fall. It's not staying down and believing you're not worth it. Every stumble is proof that you're still moving, still alive, still willing to learn. The process is a silent teacher. It doesn't shout, it transforms without notice. Marcus Aurelius didn't write to hype himself up. He wrote to remind himself to be patient, that everything arrives when it needs to, even inner peace. Because calm isn't something you chase out there. It's something you cultivate in here. And the more you practice it, the more confidence you restore in yourself and in the path you're walking. So don't rush, don't compare, don't confuse speed with progress. You're exactly where you need to be, learning what you're meant to learn. Trust that rhythm, even if you don't fully understand it. Because when you trust your process, time stops being your enemy and becomes your ally. Rushing is the voice of the ego, but calm, that belongs to the soul. And the soul, when it's at peace with its own rhythm, doesn't need to prove anything. It just lives, learns, and keeps going. Because growing without hurry doesn't mean going slow. It means going deep. Reconnecting with yourself is where everything begins. When you learn to trust your strength, to quiet your mind, and to act with integrity, you take back something you were never meant to lose: your own power. It's not about being perfect. It's about being consistent, about holding yourself up even when no one's clapping, about believing in yourself even when the road gets long. Because confidence isn't built with words, it's built with actions. If you've made it this far, write in the comments, "Today I choose to believe in myself again." You've taken an important step tonight. You've returned to yourself. But keeping that confidence requires something more. Because believing in yourself is not enough. You also need to learn how to hold your calm when the mind begins to shake. And that's where we're going next. You've normalized the chaos in your mind. You've gotten used to living on high alert, as if it were just part of the price of existing. But let me tell you something. That's not living. That's surviving. And you weren't born to be a prisoner of your thoughts. You came into this world to feel peace, to breathe without fear, to feel at home, inside yourself. Anxiety doesn't rule you. You do. Today, you're not here to watch another video that says, just take a deep breath and it'll all pass. No, today you're here to truly gear up, because anxiety and anger don't dissolve with pretty words or a pat on the back. They're faced, they're dismantled. And for that, you need clarity, you need courage, and you need tools that actually work. In this video, I'll share 13 Stoic teachings that aren't meant to sugarcoat your pain. They're here to help you understand it and break free from it. Because when you learn to think like a Stoic, you're no longer a slave to your mind. You lead it. We're going to turn the noise into silence and the storm into composure. Now let me ask you something. How long has it been since your mind actually turned off? You go to bed exhausted, but you don't rest. You wake up already thinking about everything that could go wrong. If that sounds like you, stay. This channel is for those who are tired of living in survival mode and are ready to feel at peace again. So you know what to do. Subscribe and become part of this community. And tell me in the comments, what's that one thought your mind won't stop repeating that you're ready to let go of? Or just write, today I choose calm. Breathe. What's coming next isn't theory or empty motivation. It's clarity, courage, and real practice, so you can stop being a slave to your mind. And to truly understand what it means to master your mind, you don't need to look at a silent monk or a philosopher on a mountaintop. Sometimes, you just need to look at a boxer. They say the greats are born without fear. That's a lie. The greats simply learn how to dance with it. The lights in the gym flicker. The air smells of leather, sweat, and bottled-up silence. Muhammad Ali stands in front of the punching bag, gloves tight, eyes locked in. No cameras, no audience, no golden belts to win. It's just him and that voice in his head that won't leave him alone. Breath quickens, punch, again and again. Each blow lands like a burst of contained rage, but not against an opponent. It's aimed at doubt, at fear, at the noise that follows him even when the gym is empty. Ali knew what it felt like to deal with anxiety. He called it the invisible enemy. It showed up in the quiet moments, before the fights, when the weight of the world's expectations felt heavier than his own fists. They said he was arrogant, that he feared nothing. But the truth is, he did feel fear. The difference is, he didn't deny it. He trained it. There's a story not many know. Days before his most important fight, Ali couldn't sleep. He paced back and forth in his hotel room, his mind repeating the same thoughts over and over. What if I fail? What if I'm not as strong as they think I am? That night, he didn't win the battle with muscle. He won it with breath. He sat on the edge of the bed, closed his eyes, and started listening to the rhythm of his own chest. If I can control this, he thought, I can control everything else. Inhale, exhale, listen to the silence. That's how he tamed his anxiety before he ever stepped in to tame the world. Ali understood something most people never do. Anger and anxiety are the same energy, just misdirected. One destroys, the other drives, and he chose to turn it into focus, rhythm, strategy. That's why he danced in the ring. It wasn't just for show, it was control. Every step he took was a reminder that you can't let your emotions knock you out before the fight even begins. Outside the ring, life didn't get any easier. He was criticized, suspended, condemned for refusing to fight in a war that wasn't his. The pressure was brutal. He could have exploded in anger, but he chose something else, calm and conviction. When everyone came after him, Ali said, "My biggest fight isn't in the ring, it's inside me." And he was right. That one sentence sums up the journey you're about to take in this video, because you're also fighting thoughts that hit you out of nowhere, anxiety that can't be seen but leaves you drained. And like Ali, you can learn to move differently, to use the noise as rhythm, the anger as fuel, and the fear as a teacher. It's not about hitting harder, It's about learning how not to get lost in the fight inside your own mind. So, are you ready to feel free again? From the inside out? Lesson 11. Air can also be a choice. Picture this. You're waiting for an important call. You check your phone. Nothing. You check again. Still nothing. And within seconds, your chest tightens, your jaw clenches, your heart starts racing without moving an inch. You try to distract yourself, but your body won't cooperate. Yes, you're breathing, but in the worst possible way, fast, shallow, like you need to run away but don't know from what. And in that moment, without realizing it, your mind turns into a room with no air. No calm gets in, only noise. No room to think, just to react. That feeling is more common than you think. We've all been there, trapped in a body stuck in emergency mode for no clear reason. Sometimes you don't even know why you're tense, you just are. And that's where the problem begins, because when your body speeds up, your mind assumes there's danger, even if you're just sitting on the couch. The Stoics understood this well. They knew that inner chaos begins when you react without breathing. That's why they sought out that brief pause before taking action. That moment where breath brings reason back above impulse. Anxiety and anger feed on the opposite, on a body that runs when there's no real threat. Epictetus, who was born a slave and had no control over anything external, understood this better than anyone. For him, calm wasn't a luxury, it was a necessity. They say that before responding to an insult or a blow, he would pause, breathe, and observe. It wasn't submission, it was mastery. His strength wasn't in not feeling anger or fear, it was in not letting those emotions rule him. In a time when losing your temper could cost you your life, he learned to turn each breath into an invisible shield. We don't live among Roman soldiers anymore, but the battles haven't gone away. They're just different and quieter. They're the non-stop notifications, the midnight emails, the comparisons that choke you without ever laying a hand. You live with your mind on defense, chasing a threat that only exists in your head. And without noticing, your breath starts to mirror your thoughts. Short, restless, impatient. Take a moment and watch yourself. When you're angry, what happens to your breathing? It speeds up. When anxiety hits, what happens? It gets stuck in your chest. The good news is that if your thoughts can affect your body, you can also reverse it, starting with your body. Because air isn't just oxygen, it's a signal. Every slow inhale tells your brain, we're safe. Every deep exhale reminds it, you can let go. It's not about becoming some kind of Zen master. It's about using what's already there. When something pushes your buttons, don't try to calm yourself by thinking. Do the opposite, stop thinking and breathe. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7, exhale for 8. Do it 3 times. Watch how your body lets its guard down, how your muscles loosen, how your mind stops yelling. It's almost instant, and it's not magic, it's biology. There was a woman who used to suffer from panic attacks. She said that whenever fear caught her off guard, she'd place her hand on her chest and repeat one sentence. I'm not in danger. I'm just thinking too fast. That one phrase, paired with slow breathing, gave her back control. It didn't erase her problems, but it removed the feeling of being trapped inside them. My friend, the mind has this bad habit of reacting like everything is urgent, but air always moves at its own pace. It never rushes, even when you're racing inside. And when you choose to match its rhythm, when you choose to breathe with intention, something shifts. You're no longer the victim of the moment. You're the one steering it. So next time your chest tightens or your mind urges you to explode, remember this. The air is there, waiting for you. You don't need to go on a retreat, take time off, or change your life. All you have to do is inhale, exhale, and stay. 3 seconds of awareness can save you from 3 days of inner storm. Anxiety and anger aren't dissolved by ignoring them, but by facing them where they begin, in the body. When you take control of your breathing, you take control of your mind. And in that moment, you get something back you may have forgotten. Your inner freedom. Think of your breath like the rudder of a boat in the middle of a storm. You can't stop the waves, you can't change the wind, but you can decide how to steer. And if you steer with calm, even in the wildest sea, you stay afloat. That's what breath is, the point where you take the wheel again. Lesson 12. Don't carry it all. Write to let go. Think of your mind like a computer that never empties the recycle bin. At first it runs fine, fast, smooth, responsive. But little by little, it starts to slow down. You open a tab and it lags. You type something and it freezes. Until eventually you can't do anything at all. It's not broken, it's overloaded. That's exactly how your mind works too. Every unspoken thought is an open file draining your energy. Every unprocessed worry stays running in the background, taking up space. And then one day, you can't focus or sleep or feel at ease, and you don't even know why. Seneca understood something like this over 2,000 years ago. He didn't have computers, but he had a mind full of thoughts, doubts, and fears, and he found his own way to empty the bin: writing. He didn't write to teach or impress anyone. He wrote so he wouldn't go mad from the noise inside. In his letters, which later became part of his legacy, he poured out everything he no longer wanted to carry. Writing, for him, was a kind of spiritual cleansing. It was how he breathed with his mind. No, there's nothing wrong with your head. You just never give it a break. We live trying to store everything. What we feel, what we didn't say, what we should have done. We hold on to unfinished conversations, frustrations, fears, and even grudges, as if our mind were an infinite cloud storage. But it's not. And when the system gets overloaded, anxiety shows up like an alarm saying, "Enough." It's not punishing you. It's asking you to clear the memory. The Stoics saw writing as a tool for self-understanding. They didn't wait for inspiration. They were looking for clarity. Writing was their way of organizing the chaos before it spilled over. Today, with no scrolls or ink, the principle is still the same. When you write it out, you stop carrying it inside. We're facing a different kind of chaos now, quieter but just as heavy. You head to work with a mind full of to-dos, doubts, and unanswered messages. You tell yourself, "I'll think about it later." But that later never comes, so everything piles up. And what's strange is that even though we know this, we still don't let go. But the mind, my friend, wasn't built to store, it was built to process. When you try to hold on to everything, your thoughts go in circles and never move forward. Amy Morin, therapist and author, lost her mother and her partner in the same year. She said the only thing that saved her was writing each night what her mind couldn't bear in silence. She didn't write beautifully or with any purpose. She just wrote to be able to sleep. And after a few weeks, something started to shift. Not because the pain went away, but because she wasn't carrying it alone anymore. Every word on the page was one less weight on her chest. And that's exactly what you can do. You don't have to be a writer. You just have to empty the hard drive once in a while. When something's spinning around in your head, don't argue with it in silence. Write it down. It doesn't matter if it's in a notebook, on your phone, or on a napkin in a cafe. Putting it outside tells your brain, it's saved. You can rest. Try it tonight. Before you go to sleep, write 3 sentences. How you feel, what's worrying you, and something you want to let go of. Don't correct it. Don't reread it. Don't judge it. It's for you, not for anyone else. And if you think you don't have time, remember you find time to check Instagram 30 times a day. So yes, you can write 3 sentences each night. Over time, you'll see that this habit not only calms your mind, it gives you perspective. Writing forces you to pause, to think clearly, to stop fighting with what you feel. Sometimes, something that felt huge in your head shrinks into just a few lines on the page. Other times, you'll start to see patterns. The same complaints, the same fears, the same excuses. And that's where real change begins. Not by writing pretty things, but by facing honestly what's inside you. That's what the Stoics were after. Clarity. They knew that a tangled mind is a weak mind, and there's no strength without inner order. Seneca had his way of doing it, and you can have yours. You don't need to write essays about virtue. You just need to tell yourself the truth. Every honest word is one less stone in the backpack of anxiety. When you write, you turn confusion into understanding. You go from being a victim of the noise to being a witness to it. And in that moment, something lets go. You get back the space that anxiety had taken from you. You realize you don't have to control every thought or hide every emotion. You just have to give them a place and let them pass. The words you don't say weigh you down. The ones you write set you free. When you stop carrying it all in your head and start writing it down, something changes. So tell me, do you feel like writing what you just can't get off your mind? Share it in the comments or simply write, "Today I make space for calm." Lesson 13. The emotion you hide becomes noise. While we pretend to be calm so we don't make anyone uncomfortable, Epictetus preferred discomfort if it meant gaining inner freedom. He used to say, "It's not what you feel that harms you. It's the judgment you place on what you feel." He didn't run from fear or sadness. He observed them until he understood them. He didn't mask them or bury them beneath a "I'm fine." He knew that what you don't face stays with you, and what stays with you eventually takes control. But let me ask you something. What do you do when your boss says something unfair in front of everyone? You smile, nod, swallow hard and say, "It's nothing," even though something inside is burning. Or when someone you care about disappoints you and you pretend it's okay because you don't want drama. That calm you're showing isn't serenity, it's suppression. And suppression, held in for too long, turns into internal noise that won't shut off. Over time, that noise shows up as anxiety, insomnia, or that emotional fatigue you can't quite explain. Emotions are like smoke alarms. If you turn them off without finding the fire, the house can still burn down. Anxiety doesn't come out of nowhere. It builds up from silenced emotions that finally scream when they can't be ignored anymore. And the strange thing is, we think controlling emotions means not feeling them. We pretend nothing's wrong when really we're just stockpiling. Every "I don't want to talk about it," every automatic "I'm fine," is another spark inside. Epictetus wouldn't have called that control. He would have called it self-deception. For him, inner freedom didn't come from avoiding emotions, but from facing them truthfully. If he felt fear, he acknowledged it. If he felt anger, he observed it. Because only what you name can be transformed. The rest keeps spinning inside, like a storm with no exit. Susan David, a psychologist from Harvard, shared a story that captures this with brutal clarity. Her father died when she was 14, and for weeks, she acted like everything was fine. She didn't cry, didn't talk, smiled at school as if nothing had happened. Until one day, a teacher handed her a blank sheet of paper and said, "Write what you don't dare say out loud." That day, she discovered that writing about her pain didn't break her. It helped put her back together. Sometimes the bravest thing isn't hiding how you feel, it's allowing yourself to feel it. And that's something we forget way too often. We're taught to think before we speak, but not to feel before we react. We're told be strong, but no one explains that real strength is looking inward without fear. When you suppress your emotions, all you do is give more power to what you're trying to avoid. That emotion doesn't disappear, it just changes form. It becomes tension in your body, looping thoughts, constant irritability, or a sadness you can't name. If you feel an emotion hurting you, don't try to distract yourself. Pause, name it, don't say "I'm not okay," and say, "I feel frustrated because they didn't listen to me." Don't say "it doesn't matter" and say, "what they said hurt." Naming what you feel is how you set boundaries for chaos. And if you need a physical reminder, place a hand over your chest. Not to calm yourself, but to remind yourself that your body is asking to be heard too. The Stoics knew this. What you understand, you can master. What you deny ends up mastering you. They weren't trying to erase emotions. They were trying to understand their message. Because behind anger, there's a wound. Behind fear, a need for safety. Behind sadness, a longing for connection. When you learn to recognize that, you no longer get lost in the noise. You start translating it. My friend, hiding what you feel doesn't make you stronger. It makes you more fragile, because no one can hold back what they refuse to face forever. The moment you allow yourself to feel without judgment, you stop being a prisoner of your mind. And that's what we're aiming for here, to recover the calm and inner freedom you lost trying to keep it all under control. So next time you feel like you're holding something in just to avoid seeming weak, remember this: what you don't express stays living inside you. Don't let your body pay the price for what your voice won't say. The emotions you hide don't disappear. They turn into noise, into exhaustion, into anxiety. But when you look at them without fear, they stop screaming and start guiding you. Lesson 14. Peace isn't found, it's programmed. Picture a theater just before the show begins. Everything is silent, lights off, musicians tuning up. In that moment, any sound echoes twice as loud. Your mind is that stage. If you let in complaints, messages, and rush before the day even begins, the rest of your day plays out off-key. The silence of dawn is a blank page, but most people stain it with noise before they've written even a single line of calm. Think about your mornings. The alarm goes off and your first reflex is to grab your phone. Without thinking, you're already in a whirlwind of news, emails, and notifications. You haven't even said, "Good morning," and you're mentally responding to half the world. That habit, seemingly harmless, is what turns every morning into a small battle lost before it even starts. Marcus Aurelius had his own ritual. Before leaving his room, he would mentally go over what he was likely to face: ingratitude, impatience, arrogance. He didn't do this to brace himself. He did it to prepare. That was his way of programming his mind for the day. We do the opposite. We wake up and let the world program us. If Marcus were alive today, his first test of discipline would probably be not swiping his screen the moment he woke up. And no, this isn't about demonizing technology. It's about realizing that calm doesn't just show up. It's created through small decisions. If your first thought is a task, your body registers it as an alarm. But if your first gesture is a deep breath, the message changes. You're safe. You're present. That small difference is what separates a day that drags you around from a day you actually lead. The first few minutes of the day have a direct impact on your stress levels. When someone starts their morning checking emails or bad news, their mind gets stuck in problem mode. But if you spend just 2 minutes writing down something you're grateful for, or something you're looking forward to, your brain switches gears. It won't erase your problems, but it'll change the state you face them in. Try it. Tomorrow, instead of reaching for your phone, reach for light. Open the window, let in the air, listen to real-world sounds. Move your body, even just a stretch, or write down one grounding phrase. Something simple like, "Today I'm choosing to protect my peace." You don't need a perfect routine or to wake up like the online productivity gurus. What matters isn't the ritual, it's the intention. Telling your day, "I start with me, not with chaos." The Stoics believed that outer order begins with inner order. If your mind is calm, the rest follows. Epictetus compared mental discipline to physical training. You can't expect to feel strong if you never work out. It's the same with peace. You can't expect to live in calm if you begin each day feeding disorder. Anxiety doesn't just come from what happens. It comes from how you prepare for what happens. And sure, there'll be days when the noise is unavoidable. When you wake up late, rush with coffee in hand, and feel like the world's already sprinting ahead of you. But even then, you still have room to choose. You can choose not to turn on the radio. You can choose to take a breath in the car before walking into work. You can choose not to let your first conversation be a complaint. Every small choice is a way to take back ground. My friend, calm isn't a matter of luck, it's a matter of structure. Just like you set an alarm so you're not late, set your peace so you don't lose yourself in the day. If you don't choose what enters your mind first thing in the morning, the world will choose for you. And trust me, the world always chooses rush. Marcus Aurelius didn't have notifications, but he had wars, betrayals, overwhelming responsibilities. If he could find moments of silence in all that chaos, you can too, right here in modern life. It's not about escaping the world. It's about not handing it the keys to your mind the moment you open your eyes. Your peace won't come on its own. You have to open it each morning, like a door, and not with mystical rituals, but with simple choices. Choosing silence over noise, presence over reaction, breath before thought. Now tell me, how are you going to start your day tomorrow? Let me know in the comments and share a trick or habit that helps you stay calm, or simply write, "Tomorrow I start with calm." Lesson 15. Imagine the chaos before it comes. Marcus Aurelius had a curious habit. Every morning he mentally prepared for the problems of the day. He didn't fear them, he anticipated them. He thought about betrayal, criticism, or frustration before they happened. Not to become pessimistic, but to make sure he wouldn't be caught off guard. That habit gave him something most of us have lost: serenity before the conflict. Because when you're already expecting the hit doesn't knock you down. Today, we live the other way around. We pretend everything will go perfectly, and when something goes wrong, our world collapses. You wake up calm, have your coffee, and suddenly a single message ruins your whole day. Bad news, a canceled meeting, a comment that pokes at your mood. Your mind spirals into panic because it wasn't ready. And that's when anxiety takes over. But if you trained your mind like a muscle, if you got it used to facing chaos without fear, the impact would be much smaller. There's a story that illustrates this perfectly. Julio de la Iglesia, a former bomb disposal expert, once said that before approaching an explosive, he would always imagine every possible scenario. A faulty suit, human error, detonation. He didn't do it out of fear. He did it so that if something went wrong, his body wouldn't freeze. He visualized chaos to gain control over it before it happened. And that's exactly what we do when we accept the possibility that things might go wrong, without letting that steal our peace. Visualizing the unexpected is like training with extra weight. When the real moment comes, you move more easily. If you only rely on everything going smoothly, you fall apart as soon as things go off script. But if your mind has already walked through that terrain, there's no shock, only response. Marcus Aurelius practiced this constantly, not because he didn't trust life, but because he understood setbacks are part of it. That's how he avoided letting frustration rule him. Anticipating isn't fearing, it's building strength. Think about something more every day, like a tough conversation you've been avoiding for weeks. You keep telling yourself how uncomfortable it'll be, and when the time comes, anxiety freezes you. But if you take just 5 minutes beforehand to picture how it might go, even imagining the tensest parts, your body has already rehearsed the scene. When the real moment arrives, the words flow without that inner tremble that makes you lose control. It's the same with anything: an interview, an exam, a meeting. The mind fears what it doesn't know, but calms down in front of what it's already seen, even if only in a mental rehearsal. Athletes know this. Soldiers know this. And so does anyone who's learned to breathe before reacting. Preparing yourself mentally doesn't make you cold. It makes you free. Try this experiment. Tonight, before bed, think of 3 things that could go wrong tomorrow. Imagine the worst-case scenario. Not to dramatize, just observe it, as if you were watching it from the outside. Then think, what would I do if that happened? Don't use it to scare yourself. Use it to give yourself space. Because mental space is the difference between anxiety and composure. When your mind has already visited chaos, real chaos loses its power. Epictetus didn't fear chaos. He feared losing his calm in the face of it, because chaos itself doesn't destroy you. What breaks you is the way you look at it. Sometimes the mess is out there, but the storm gets triggered inside. And when you learn to stay clear in the middle of that noise, chaos stops being the enemy and becomes the stage. This isn't about living in defense mode. It's about living in awareness. It means that when something goes wrong, your first reaction isn't panic. It's peace. The Stoics didn't fool themselves into thinking everything would go well. They strengthened themselves by knowing that even if it didn't, they would still stand firm. And that's something you can start practicing today. My friend, you can't stop the blows, but you can show up with your shield raised. Anticipating the hard stuff isn't living in fear, it's living prepared. Anxiety doesn't go away by hoping the world slows down. It fades when you decide not to spin with it. And right there, in that space where chaos no longer shakes you, that's where your true inner freedom begins. Lesson 16. Don't be your own enemy. Picture this. You're driving in a rush, take the wrong exit, and the first thing you say isn't, "It's okay, I'll fix it," but, "I'm such an idiot." And that's where it all begins. The judgment, the guilt, the anxiety. In a matter of seconds, a small mistake turns into feeling like a complete failure. Funny, isn't it? No one yelled at you. No one judged you. But your own voice did it for them. Just like that, without realizing it, you become your own worst enemy. It happens all the time. You break a glass, forget to reply to a message, say the wrong thing, and immediately that inner voice shows up. The one that forgives nothing. A voice that knows nothing about compassion or context, only punishment. And the more you listen to it, the more you believe it. You start living with a constant sense of falling short, of never catching up, of not being enough. And that, my friend, is pure fuel for anxiety. Your mind works like a GPS. Think about it. When you take a wrong turn, the GPS doesn't insult you, doesn't yell or say, "How could you be so stupid?" It simply recalculates and calmly redirects you. Because it's not there to punish you, it's there to guide you. Now imagine what would change if your inner voice did the same. If instead of judging every mistake, it simply reminded you, "We're adjusting course." How much weight you'd take off your shoulders. How much peace you'd get back. Epictetus had a very practical view of this. He said, first, say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. He wasn't talking about self-esteem the way we think of it now. He was talking about coherence. If you decide to be strong, speak to yourself like someone strong would. Not with fake praise or forced affirmations, but with respect. Because if you don't believe in yourself when you fail, who will? The problem is, we confuse discipline with harshness. We think that to improve, we need to yell at ourselves. But no, Stoic self-control has nothing to do with self-punishment. It's about staying clear even when you make mistakes. Think about this. If a friend made the same mistake you did, would you say to them what you say to yourself? Probably not. You'd say, "It's okay, it happens to all of us." But to yourself, you say, "How could you be so stupid?" The difference isn't in the mistake, it's in the tone. And that tone can turn a small frustration into a full-blown anxiety spiral. Try this experiment. For one day, just listen to your inner dialogue. Don't try to change it, just observe. Notice how you talk to yourself when something goes wrong. If every sentence starts with "never," "always," or "here we go again," you're feeding a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you repeat "I always mess up," your mind stops looking for solutions and starts trying to prove you right. But if you shift those words to something like, "This time didn't go well," your body relaxes. It feels like there's still room to grow, that not all is lost. Language doesn't just communicate, it programs. Every word you say to yourself builds an image of who you are. And when that image is someone broken, every challenge feels like a collapse. But if the image is someone who's learning, mistakes hurt less. They become part of the process, not a punishment. So next time something doesn't go your way, pause and ask yourself, am I helping myself or sinking myself? Speaking harshly doesn't make you more disciplined. It makes you more fragile. Because when your own mind is attacking you, there's nowhere to hide. But when that voice becomes an ally, it doesn't matter how many times you fall, you'll always know how to come back to center. My friend, true strength doesn't come from punishment. It comes from compassion. That's where calm and inner freedom begin. When you finally stop fighting with yourself. And when you catch yourself speaking harshly, what do you do to shift that voice? What phrase helps you come back to calm? Leave it in the comments. Maybe your words are exactly what someone else needs to read today. Lesson 17. Without direction, the mind sinks. Seneca used to say that no wind is favorable to someone who doesn't know where they're going, and he was right. Because when your direction is clear, even bad weather can push you forward. But if you don't know what you're doing with your time, even the smallest setback can pull you under. The same happens with the mind. If it doesn't have a direction, it starts spinning in circles. It gets tangled in thoughts, in fears, in endless what-ifs that go nowhere. And little by little, without realizing it, you end up exhausted, without having done anything truly meaningful. Imagine getting on a boat with no map, no course, no compass. The sea isn't to blame for your seasickness. You just don't know where you're headed. That's what anxiety feels like when you live without structure. It's not that you have too many problems. It's that your mind has nothing to hold on to. The day turns into a current pulling you from one thing to the next, and you keep reacting to everything without knowing what you're actually trying to build. You spend your time putting out fires, without realizing you're the one holding the torch. Seneca lived surrounded by political chaos, betrayal, and power. And even with all of that, he made space for daily reflection, for silence, for writing. That wasn't a coincidence. It was his way of reminding himself that even if he couldn't control the emperor or fate, he could control his inner direction. That was his true wisdom, understanding that order isn't a prison, it's a form of freedom. People often confuse order with rigidity, but in reality, order is an anchor. A simple routine, even just making your bed, preparing your coffee in silence, or going for a walk, is like dropping anchor in the middle of the sea. It doesn't stop the waves, but it keeps you from drifting. When there's something stable in your day, no matter how small, your mind finds a fixed point. And that point, my friend, can be the difference between a day that drags you and one that holds you. We live in a time where everything pushes you the other way. Notifications tell you what to look at, other people tell you what to want, and all the noise steals every moment of silence. In that context, having direction isn't a luxury. It's survival. If you don't choose where to go, someone else will choose for you. And there's no worse feeling than looking back and realizing you've been running in circles. Think about the days when you wake up without knowing what to do. You jump from your phone to email, from email to the fridge, from the fridge to your thoughts. And that's where you get stuck, paralyzed. Anxiety grows because there's no structure to contain it. But when you wake up with a clear intention, even a small one, everything shifts. Your mind knows where to look, and that gives it calm. You don't have to plan out every hour or fill your calendar. Just make 3 small decisions you can stick to, even on the hard days. 3, not 30. It could be opening the window as soon as you wake up, writing down one phrase to focus you, or taking a 5-minute walk before looking at a screen. Those gestures are quiet reminders that you're steering the direction, not your anxiety. There's a story I love about the explorer Ernest Shackleton. When his ship got stuck in the Antarctic ice for months, the crew could have fallen apart. But Shackleton established a routine, set schedules, assigned tasks, meals at the same time each day. That bit of order kept everyone sane. They weren't any less lost, but they were more grounded, and that saved their lives. Your day can be just as unpredictable as an expedition through ice, but as long as you have a clear direction, chaos can't rule you. Order reminds you that even if you can't control the conditions, you can control your next step. Remember, calm doesn't come from having everything under control. It comes from knowing where you're going. You don't need to control the day. You just need to begin it with purpose. Because when your direction is steady, anxiety has nowhere to enter. And when you choose that direction each morning, even if the sea gets rough, you're still holding the wheel. Lesson 18. Reality have the final word. A few years ago, a woman named Leah lost her job overnight. She had given everything to that company, even sacrificing weekends and hours of sleep. When they called her into the office and told her they no longer needed her, she just stood there in silence. She didn't even cry. But that night, when she got home, She felt anger and anxiety clashing inside her like two crashing waves. She kept repeating to herself, "This isn't fair. This can't be happening." She slept poorly, ate worse, and her mind wouldn't stop looking for explanations, for someone to blame, for impossible solutions. Until one day, exhausted, she remembered a quote from Marcus Aurelius, "Wish for what happens to happen, and you will be happy." And he didn't say that from a throne of comfort, but from the experience of losing wars, friends, and family. His calm didn't come from controlling the world. It came from accepting that the world moves at its own pace. Leah understood it instantly. She couldn't change what had already happened. So, for the first time in weeks, she told herself something different. "This is happening whether I like it or not." That sentence didn't give her job back, but it gave her back control. Because acceptance isn't surrender. It's the moment you stop fighting the inevitable and start acting from a place of calm. Sometimes life doesn't ask you to resist more. It asks you to let go. And that's the hardest part. We were raised to believe that acceptance is the same as giving up. But no. Acceptance is simply stopping the energy drain of fighting battles that aren't in your hands. It's recognizing reality as an ally, not as an enemy. Fighting against reality is like trying to win an argument with the ocean. You can yell, curse, protest, but the wave still comes. Only when you stop resisting do you float. Think about how many times something unfair has happened, and you felt that heat rise in your chest, that fire in your face, and your mind repeating what shouldn't have happened. That's where anger and anxiety join forces. They trick you into thinking that if you just keep obsessing over what happened, you'll somehow undo it. But all it really does is wear you down. Marcus Aurelius felt that fire too. He wasn't a saint or a robot. He was a man surrounded by betrayal and tragedy, forced to make decisions that hurt even the people he loved. And still, he found calm in a simple idea. The universe doesn't make mistakes, and it simply follows its course. That idea doesn't erase the pain, but it puts it in order. It reminds you there's a difference between suffering because of something and multiplying your suffering by resisting it. Next time something doesn't go your way, pause for 3 seconds before reacting. 3 seconds to say out loud, "This is happening." That phrase doesn't change the facts, but it changes your position. Then ask yourself, what can I do now with this? Not, why is this happening to me, but how can I use this? That question gives you your power back. It turns anxiety into direction and anger into useful energy. Sometimes all you need is to remind yourself that you don't need all the answers right now, that you can stay still for a moment, breathe, and watch, without deciding anything just yet. Because when you stop forcing life to match your expectations, your mind lets go. It's like dropping a rope you've been pulling on for years. Think of someone trying to open a door by pushing, when it actually opens by pulling. The harder they push, the more frustrated they get, until finally they try the opposite, and the door opens effortlessly. That's how acceptance works. You stop pushing against what won't move, and suddenly, something unlocks. Serenity doesn't come when everything goes right. It comes when you stop resisting. Acceptance isn't giving up, and it's redirecting the energy you used to spend fighting into something you can actually build. It's watching the wave come, not with fear, but with trust that you'll know how to float. And if you feel like you're ready to stop reacting and start living with more clarity, check out the video on screen. It'll help you keep building that calm you've started creating today. Lesson 19. What you see every day shapes your mind. You say you want peace, but every morning you unlock your phone or turn on the TV, and the first thing you see is a world on fire. Impossible comparisons, people yelling their truth like it's the only one. And you really expect to feel calm after that? Think about it. The first image of the day sticks with you more than you think. If it's noise, confusion, or fear, your mind starts the day on high alert, as if the world were a constant threat. No wonder so many people live tense without even knowing why. Epictetus used to say, "Don't take pride in loving wisdom if you don't live according to it." And if he were alive today, he probably wouldn't boast about reading philosophy while spending 3 hours arguing with strangers online. Because it's not about knowing, it's about protecting your focus, about guarding what you let in. The Stoics knew how easily the mind gets polluted. That's why they sought silence, space to look inward, not outward. We, on the other hand, stare at screens that never go dark. Your mind is like a white room. Every image, every word, every sound you consume leaves a mark on the wall. If you spend your day surrounded by chaos, you can't expect to fall asleep in peace. And no, it's not about disconnecting from the world. It's about filtering what truly nourishes you. Just like you wouldn't eat junk food all day, you shouldn't feed your mind with what makes it sick. Neuroscientist Andrew Huberman explained something interesting. Looking at your phone right after waking up triggers a spike in dopamine and cortisol, the hormones of instant pleasure and stress. In other words, your brain starts the day with its foot on the gas. And then you wonder why by noon you're exhausted, overstimulated, and feeling like you've had enough. It's like waking up and throwing your mind into a fire drill. Seneca spoke about something similar, even centuries ago. He said the soul needs rest just like the body. But not just any rest. It needs silence. It needs order. And that doesn't come from taking a break. It comes from choosing intentionally what you let stay with you. Because what you watch doesn't just entertain you, it shapes you. If your mind feeds on noise, it will end up repeating noise. Think about that moment when you just wanted to check one recipe or a quick news update. And 40 minutes later, you're watching doomsday theories, political arguments, and the perfect life of someone you don't even know. Your body's still, but your mind has run a marathon. Every video, every scroll, every comparison fills up that inner space, and later you can't seem to empty it. The more cluttered the mind is with stimuli, the less room there is for peace. Try this for a week. Instead of looking at your phone first thing in the morning, open a window, breathe. Notice something real, not something on a screen. It might feel boring at first, but you'll notice your body thanking you. The mind, once it gets used to silence, stops begging for constant stimulation. It's like a muscle that finally relaxes after being under tension for too long. And throughout the day, filter with care. Don't follow accounts that fuel your anger or make you compare. Mute the ones that upset you, even if you like the person. Create your own mental refuge. Fill it with people, books, or videos that inspire you and lift you up. It's not about living in a bubble. It's about consciously choosing what air your mind breathes. Here's something curious. When you take care of what you look at, your thoughts change too. You start noticing that your inner dialogue softens, things irritate you less, you sleep better, because the mind, just like the body, responds to the environment it's in, and when you give it calm, it gives you clarity in return. My friend, what you see every day doesn't just pass through, it stays. It leaves a mark. It shapes how you feel and how you react. Your peace depends less on what's happening outside and more on what you choose to look at. So the next time you open a screen, ask yourself, does this bring me closer to the calm I want to feel? Because what you consume daily isn't just information. It's how you train your mind to live. Lesson 20. Walk until your mind surrenders. They say that when Epictetus was still a slave, he couldn't choose where to go, but he could choose how to move within his own cage. He would walk in circles, observing, breathing, measuring every step as if each one helped him reclaim a piece of his freedom. And in a way, it did. Because even though almost everything had been taken from him, he still had the one thing no one could steal: how he responded to what he couldn't control. He didn't walk to escape. He walked to remind himself that as long as his body could move, his spirit was still free. Epictetus didn't speak of sitting around and philosophizing. He spoke of action. He said that freedom and happiness begin when you understand what's within your control. And movement is always within your control. Not to run from your problems, but to break the mental loop that's keeping you trapped. Because when your mind won't stop spinning, your body can be the way out. When anxiety fills your head, the mind becomes like a hamster in a wheel, spinning fast, but going nowhere. Walking is opening the cage. It's telling your body, move, even if you don't know where you're going. And with each step, the noise starts to settle, the thoughts line up, and the tension begins to loosen. You don't need to escape the problem. You just need to stop spinning in place. Psychologist Kelly McGonigal discovered that walking activates the part of the brain that regulates emotions. You don't need to run marathons or climb mountains. Just 10 minutes of intentional movement is enough for the body to tell the brain, we're safe. That single physical signal changes everything. Your heart rate drops, your mind unwinds, and suddenly, what felt unbearable doesn't seem quite as heavy. Picture this. You're at home, chest tight, heart racing, head full of thoughts that won't quit. You try to reason with yourself, distract yourself, convince yourself that everything's fine. But nothing works. Anxiety starts to creep in, and you feel like you're losing control. The worst thing you can do in that moment is stay still. Put your shoes on and get outside. Walk. No music, no headphones, no phone. Just you, your steps, and the sound of your breath. After 10 minutes, you won't have solved your life, but you will have shifted your mental state. Movement reminds the anxious brain of something it tends to forget. You're still here. You're still moving forward. Marcus Aurelius, walking through the chaos of war and the weight of power, found clarity in those quiet walks. It wasn't escaping duty, it was how he returned to himself. While others looked for control in noise, he found it in movement. Because moving, even just a little, is a form of resistance without violence. Walking is meditation without the pressure. You don't need incense or mantras, just the sound of your footsteps keeping a rhythm your body recognizes as safe. Each step anchors you to the present. And in that presence, your mind stops looking backward or forward. It stays here, where life is actually happening. We often think we need answers to calm anxiety, when really we just need space. Space for the body to release what the mind is holding on to. When you walk, the scenery shifts, and with it, so does your perspective. What felt like a wall at home becomes a wider, softer path. Make this a small ritual, not a task but a truce with yourself. When your head is racing faster than your body, pause and move. Don't wait to feel motivated, just start. Because movement isn't the result of calm, it's the cause of it. My friend, every step you take is a way of telling your mind, you're not in charge anymore. Sometimes the body is wiser than thought. Let it lead. Walking doesn't erase your problems, but it changes their size. It puts them into perspective. And with every step, even a small one, fear shrinks. When anxiety starts to choke you, don't analyze it. Don't argue with it. Walk. Walk until the noise gets tired. Because when the body moves, the mind, sooner or later, surrenders. And in that quiet moment, without even realizing it, you reclaim something you thought you'd lost. Your calm, your clarity, and that deep inner freedom no one can take away. And tell me, have you ever gone on a walk just to calm your mind? I'd love to hear your story in the comments. Share your experience, Varn, or simply write, I walk until my mind surrenders. Lesson 21. Don't forget who you were on your worst days. I know. There are days when it feels like you've hit your limit, like you can't keep going. But here's the thing. You felt that before. And yet, here you are. You've thought it in silence, maybe even said it out loud, and still, you moved forward. Maybe without strength, maybe without motivation, but you kept going. And even if your mind has wiped it from memory, that was a victory. That's one of the cruel tricks of anxiety. It convinces you that you're starting from scratch when, in reality, you've been building a kind of resilience for years, even if you've forgotten what that feels like. Marcus Aurelius once wrote something worth remembering. Everything difficult you've already endured, you've forgotten. And he was right. The mind tends to erase the evidence of your strength as if it didn't count. But every time you thought you couldn't handle it and still did, you weren't just getting through the day. You were training something deeper than your body, your spirit. That part of you that stood up when everything else around you seemed to fall apart. Every emotional scar is a medal no one sees. It doesn't shine, you don't show it off. But it proves you made it through something you thought you couldn't. Sometimes you carry them without realizing it, hidden under your clothes or behind a smile. But they're still there, quietly reminding you that yes, you've known pain, but you've also known your way out. Take Emma Stone, the actress from La La Land. Before the awards, before the spotlight, she had her first panic attack at 13 in the middle of class. She said she genuinely thought she was going to die, her heart pounding out of her chest. Years later, she looked back on that moment and said something simple. "I've been through worse and I'm still here." That phrase holds the very essence of what we tend to forget when fear comes knocking again. This isn't the first time your mind has tried to scare you, and it won't be the last time you prove it wrong. Anxiety has a way of making everything feel unfamiliar, but most of the time, it's not new. It's the same storm with a different sky. And if you've walked through it before, you can walk through it again. Every hard moment you've survived is a lesson, a silent badge of honor, a reminder that you're not new to this. You've done it before, and you can do it again. So when you feel like you're falling apart, pause and bring your own story to mind. Make a mental list or write it down of 3 moments when you were certain you couldn't go on, but you did. It doesn't matter if they were big or small. It could be a breakup, a loss, a sleepless week, or just a day when you kept going without knowing why. Write them, read them, hold on to them, because anxiety will try to delete your story, but you can remind yourself of it. And when that voice in your head says you're not strong enough, show it the facts. Remind it of all the times you stood back up when no one expected you to. Speak to yourself as someone who has survived, not someone who's starting from nothing. You don't need to become a new version of you. You just need to remember the one who already made it through worse. Epictetus said we are not disturbed by events, but by the opinion we have of them. And sometimes that opinion is shaped by forgetfulness. If you could see yourself through the eyes of someone who truly knows your story, you'd understand that you're already far stronger than you give yourself credit for. This storm isn't a punishment, it's just another test. And your heart, and the same one that survived before, is more than ready for it. Sometimes finding calm isn't about learning something new. It's about remembering what you've already lived. Peace doesn't always have to be built. Sometimes it's simply recognized. It's hidden in every one of those moments where you thought, "I can't do this," and then did it anyway. My friend, never underestimate the version of you who fought when no one was watching. That version is still there, still inside you, still ready to remind you that this isn't your first storm, and like the others, this one will pass too. Just this time, don't forget to hold on to the memory, so that next time anxiety tries to tell you you're not strong enough, you'll have something to show it, the living proof that you've already made it through before, and you will again. And now, let me ask you, if you could send a message to the version of you who was about to give up, what would you say? Share it in the comments. Maybe your words today are exactly what someone else needs to read to keep going. Lesson 22. Not everyone deserves your energy. My friend, haven't you noticed? Some people are like emotional loudspeakers. They amplify everything negative and throw it right at you. And if you don't protect yourself, you end up vibrating with their noise. It doesn't matter how well your day started. One conversation with someone like that is enough to leave you drained. You walk away with a full head, a tight chest, and the weight of something that wasn't even yours to begin with. Seneca knew how important this was. He warned about it more than 2,000 years ago. Avoid those who complain endlessly, because misery is contagious. He didn't say it out of disdain, but out of clarity. He understood that too much time caught in someone else's drama can make you lose your own center. His advice wasn't to isolate yourself, but to stay clear, to listen without absorbing, to be present without being pulled under. He lived surrounded by politics, power, and betrayal, and still, he knew how to retreat into his inner space. That was how he protected his balance. Because it's not about running away from people, it's about learning how to guard your energy. Just like you wouldn't let anyone walk into your home uninvited, you shouldn't let just anyone walk into your mind. You probably know someone who can turn any conversation into a Greek tragedy. You say you didn't sleep well, and they reply they haven't slept in days. You say you're stressed, and they shoot back, "If only you knew what I'm going through." Some people treat life like a competition of suffering, and if you don't set limits, you'll end up playing a game you never wanted to join. Anxiety often doesn't start inside, it starts outside. It's the noise we allow in. You wake up calm, but someone calls to share their latest disaster, and suddenly your heart is racing as if it were your problem. The strange part is that the body doesn't know the difference between what happens to you and what you absorb. If you fill your surroundings with tension, your mind will treat it as its own. Do a quick social scan. Ask yourself, who do I feel lighter with after talking to, and who do I feel drained by? It's a simple question, but a powerful one. If you notice that someone always leaves chaos in their wake, start to step back. It doesn't require a dramatic confrontation. Sometimes it's enough to say, "I can't talk about this today," or "let's change the subject." That's not being cold. That's protecting your peace. Sometimes the wisest boundaries aren't spoken. They're practiced. Taking longer to reply, pulling back a little, not being available for everything or everyone. Inner peace isn't something you get by luck. It's something you defend through choices. Not everyone deserves access to your attention, your time, or your calm. And that doesn't make you selfish. It makes you self-aware. Here's something interesting. When you start protecting your energy, you quickly see who really values you and who just needs you to unload on. Some will drift away, and that's okay. Not every connection is meant to last. What matters is staying close to the people who bring silence when there's noise, the ones who return calm, not anxiety. Picture your mind as a temple. Every thought, every person, every conversation enters like an offering or a stone. If you let everyone walk in with their complaints, their chaos, and their anger, that temple becomes a marketplace. But if you choose who gets to come in, serenity becomes your natural state. Protecting your energy is protecting your inner freedom. You don't need to become unreachable. You just need to be more intentional about what you give your attention to. Calm isn't always earned through struggle. Sometimes it's earned by stepping away in time. Your mind is not a dumping ground for other people's frustrations. It's a sacred space where your strength is built. Guard who enters, because anxiety often doesn't come from you. It comes from what you allow to surround you. Accept what you can't control. Let go of what weighs you down, and protect what truly matters. That's what brings you back to the present. Because calm isn't found by escaping the noise, but by learning to hear yourself through it. Being at peace doesn't mean everything is solved. It means you no longer need all the answers just to breathe easy. If you've made it this far, write in the comments, "Today I choose to be present." That tells me you're part of this community that doesn't give up. Subscribe and turn on the bell so we can walk this path of wisdom together. You've got more videos on screen waiting for you, because every step counts. Click now, and let's keep learning together.